Welcome everyone. My name is Jordan, and if you have your finger on the crypto news cycle pulse, you'll surely recognize the name of our guest today. Someone who works on the inside as a journalist reporting for major online publications including Cointelegraph. All will be revealed very shortly, but first, a quick word from the channel's sponsor. You can try and learn about crypto all by yourself like I did, and you can get frustrated, confused, and overwhelmed like I did, or you can just head on over to Dear Crypto, a 30-lesson course created by myself and my co-founder Samantha Smith to help you understand the world of crypto. Dear Crypto was inspired by my own 100-day challenge to learn everything I possibly could about crypto, which I shared on TikTok, and since then I have dedicated thousands of hours to learning about crypto, understanding the risk, and educating myself about how to embrace the opportunity. We cover topics including the history of money, blockchain technology, crypto wallets, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. So if that sounds like a resource you or your friend needs, head on over to dearcrypto.education. We'd love to see you over there. Let's crack on with the interview. Ciaran Lyons that is how you pronounce your name, right? Making sure.
That is.
Great. Yeah, I'm keeping that in. Ciaran Lyons is an Australian crypto journalist by day and TV presenter and comedian by night. He writes about topics wide-ranging, including crypto adoption, major project updates, venture capital funding in the crypto space, climate change action on the blockchain, and of course, crypto regulation and the impact of potentially harmful regulation on the digital asset industry. Ciaran, it's so great to have you on Dear Crypto.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate it.
A friend of mine recently said that 1 year spent in the crypto space basically counts as a dog year because so much happens that it feels like 15 years have passed by. The crypto news cycle moves so quickly. So kudos to you for surviving that race. We spoke before, we started recording. We spoke about, sort of the pros and cons of the crypto news cycle and the types of content that, can reach people when they're trying to educate themselves about cryptocurrency. And we did touch briefly on price predictions, which I have very strong feelings about. So before we jump into the land of crypto news and XRP and, the SEC and whatnot.
Yeah.
What are your general thoughts on price predictions in crypto, and why should people be cautious of price predictions?
I think, like any market or any asset class, I always say, because I've got friends that ask me, right, they know I work in crypto, they're like, when's Bitcoin going to hit 100 grand, or what crypto should I buy? And I always tell them if I knew, I'd be a billionaire and probably wouldn't be friends. No, I don't say that. But I mean, I'm always like, if I knew, then, I don't think anyone really knows. Like even people that are, they've studied finance at the highest level, they've worked in the space, they can see patterns, they can see trends, they can go off, and for a lot of markets, that works very well. Like seeing what's happened in the past, history does repeat itself, however, not always. So when somebody puts out a price prediction, that's generally their opinion. They may have done research, they may have not, they may have also not really formed that opinion. They might have heard that from somebody else, and that opinion might have come from someone else. So what backs up, it's very easy to say Bitcoin is going to 1 million next year in February. And it's very easy to put that as a nice thumbnail or a video, get a lot of views, and, they get cool advertising revenue. So, it's a very, and I think a lot of people right now, given how new crypto is, are looking at crypto from how much money can I make, and they've seen and they've heard about people that have made millions, and the first thing they want to know is, this is easy, so when can I make $1 million? And they'll go on these videos, and and you don't know what's behind it. I think that's something we briefly touched on is as we've seen with the whole FTX influencer situation, is you don't know what they're getting paid for. We don't know what they're pushing and why they're pushing it. Obviously the Kim Kardashian lawsuit as well, that showed that very well, where she got a big deal from the SEC because, she was, correct me if I'm wrong, she didn't disclose the fact she was getting compensation for
Hmm.
the product she was advertising, and that ended up being a scam. It ended up
Yeah,
being a
it
rug pull.
ended up
So
biting Kimmy K in the ass, and it was not it was not a good time for her. But I think that's so true, and that's where problem like price predictions become even more problematic is when those cryptocurrencies are endorsed by people that we trust or look up to or that are in the public eye. And I think that price predictions for me are just a bit of confirmation bias. Like, a lot of people get into digital assets and cryptocurrencies not really knowing the technology, not really knowing why they're investing. And it's so
yeah,
important to know your why before you start dumping your money into the crypto market. And so then if you don't understand any of that, then you're basically just looking for some sort of confirmation that you've made a good decision because you couldn't be bothered to do the hard yak yourself and put in the research. So it's an
100%.
interesting one.
It's, and people get annoyed when they hear the words "do your own research" because it sounds hard. Like,
Mm,
no one wants to hear that. They
yeah.
just want to know, where can I put my money today so I can make a million tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, people that are in that mindset. And the thing about doing your own research is, once you've actually delved in and understand it and kind of make an informed decision yourself, you're going to be a lot more confident with your own research
Yeah.
and your own gut instinct than relying on a video or
Yeah.
a collection of personalities online, or your mates. It's your own decision, your own gut instinct, and you learn from that. And that's how I think in the long run you will make better investment decisions, just trusting your own gut instinct after
Yeah.
doing your own research.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's such a big reason why we created Dear Crypto, is to just take that like huge burden of responsibility of doing your own research out of the equation, and just making it simple for people to really understand, like, end to end, what cryptocurrency is, where it came from, and why it's here to stay. Kieran, you have a really interesting background. You've done a bit of TV presenting, bit of comedy, bit of accounting, and now you're a crypto journalist. Why crypto journalism? What is it that fascinates you about the space and that drew you in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess I probably was about 2016 that I got into crypto,
Wow,
and I
early.
think, like, yeah, I mean, Ethereum back then was traveling under $100. It was,
Wow.
it was, it was that long ago, and
Mm,
literally, I think, like everyone else, especially in that time, crypto wasn't even a decade old then. It was
mm,
very new. All my friends, everyone I knew thought it was a scam back then. So
mm-hmm.
it's kind of, I was a lone wolf, kind of really interested. I was researching, I was looking at videos, and I just found it so fascinating and became obsessed. I mean, I was dabbling in it, and doing trading and all that stuff. And I literally at that point in time was also working in radio at the time. So I was working in a traditional media outlet. I was working at Triple J, and I guess, yeah, that this sort of passion just followed me throughout everything else I was doing. I was just really focused on this and really loving this. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, even when I was working at Triple J, I never really loved music. Like I worked there. I kind of, I loved presenting, but I liked going to music concerts. I'm not like a die-hard music guy,
Mm-hmm.
but I guess then going, to a few other TV things, and loved the crypto stuff, was doing the presenting. So I guess it kind of like blended together with experience from, that journalism background,
Mm,
in the presenting sense, with a passion for crypto. Obviously, I have experience in accounting and finance as well. So kind of like blended everything from like my 20s and just combined into one. And I guess
nice.
crypto journalism, as opposed to traditional media, I think for the like time being, I love what crypto is, and it's cool being able to dive into more heavy topics and explore, I guess, the more niche stories in crypto that crypto publications are there for, and they want that. So I
Mm,
guess, that side of it, I wouldn't, not really as interested in just purely just doing, say, Bitcoin up today and a simple why is that, like, I'm kind of like, I love going into a DeFi hack, $200 million DeFi hack, and what happened, and following the wallets and all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff. Yeah, that's kind of really interesting to me, and kind of seeing, it's all so transparent, it's all out there. So yeah, I guess it's just really like it allows a lot more freedom to explore more niche stories and
Mm.
in-depth investigation pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to also jump into an article that you recently wrote since Ripple is so. Oh, actually, let's not get into Ripple yet. I do want to touch on this article that you wrote that's titled Banking is Slowly Dying. Former TradFi, short for traditional finance execs, on reasons for joining crypto, which to me is always a really interesting topic because there are two types of people in traditional, or sorry, there are two types of people. People in traditional finance who see zero value in digital assets, and people in traditional finance who see immense and extraordinary value in crypto assets, so much that they leave traditional finance to join the crypto space. I mean, you spent part of your early career as an accountant managing funds for high net worth individuals. What are your observations and your take on this sort of tradfi versus the crypto space, um, and your thoughts on some of the smartest and richest people in the world abandoning the traditional finance space to pursue a career in crypto?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, that idea for the article, I guess, stemmed from the fact that there's a lot of Australian execs. I mean, there's
Mm.
a few in there that I mentioned that had left, high-paying roles in Australian banks to move into blockchain and crypto.
Yeah, I saw Guy
Um,
Guy Dickinson was in there, who we had on the show a couple weeks ago.
yeah, yeah, perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Like, the treasurer of a bank, who now is working on his own company in the blockchain space. And I think, any of these people. I mean, I think it might have been Guy, correct
Mhm.
to say, in the article he said, it's not more lucrative all the time, to just jump in from a job perspective to kind of leave a high paying role in banking,
Mm.
but it's a hell of a lot more satisfying because there's so many limitations in the banking sector of what they can and can't do, and anyone that's kind of into innovation and exploring new ways of doing things are going to have their wings clipped very quickly in that kind of corporate environment. So
Mm.
going into this space, I think everything's new. Nobody really knows the answer to anything right now because every day they're finding some new thing, a new way to do it, or somebody's in court for something. So
Mhm.
literally, it's just it allows so much more. So I think anyone that goes in from TradFi to crypto, um, they've obviously got some passion for the space.
Yeah.
I think they can see that it is going to have a lot of benefits for the financial system in the future.
Yeah.
As we've seen with all the banks now in Australia are, they've all got blockchain departments. They've all
Yeah.
kind of, outrightly, they're at the crypto conventions now. They're
Yeah,
coming
they are.
along.
MasterCard is
So
usually always at the big crypto events floating around somewhere. So I think like especially in the payments industry, right? So like
yeah,
looking at Stripe or PayPal or MasterCard or Visa, whatever it is, they're figuring out ways to accept payment in cryptocurrency because naturally that's where like customer demand is leading.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think um, they can see into the future. Like these guys are very smart people. Like they've come from higher corporate roles in banks. There's definitely conversations that are happening in banks now
Mm.
about this technology. I mean, it's pretty hard to ignore. So I think a lot of them are able to kind of have some indication of, okay, well, this is going to be around for the long term.
Yeah.
I've got ideas. I want to kind of explore my own thing and make a difference. And
Yeah.
jumping into the space now is better than ever than 10 years later.
I loved this tweet that you included in that article from Malcolm, who's the tech lead at Masari. And he said, I left my engineering job at a TradFi company in 2017 to professionally work in the crypto space. My colleague turned to me when I resigned and said, remember, quitters never win and winners never quit. He said, no hard feelings, but I think you're stupid about your stupid statement often, Steve. Which I think is, really funny. still so many people who are stuck in that traditional finance world who don't want to see the value of digital assets, who refuse to see the value of digital assets. I know one of those people myself, but then, like Rick Edelman said, he's the author of The Truth About Crypto, and, he said, if you've still got your head in the sand, I did, and it's time to jump in and really explore the space. Let's talk about your take on Ripple's case with the SEC, because you recently wrote that the Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has warned that Ripple's legal battle against the SEC is coming to a close, but that it's only the beginning of a larger battle for the industry and the fight for regulatory clarity, and that it has to continue. And I suppose that's right, because Ripple only claimed a partial victory over the SEC. If you want to see more on that, check out last week's video. I made an entire video about Ripple's partial win. And there's still a lot to work out, though, like how cryptocurrencies like XRP will be treated in the secondary sale market. And when it comes to institutional buyers' expectations of profit, for example, what's your take on how this lawsuit filing has played out in the news in front of everyone ever since that fateful day in 2020 when the SEC filed that lawsuit against Ripple?
Yeah, I think, there was a lot of fear when that lawsuit was filed in 2020. And, I think it was only a few months later, it was the big crash in 2021. Mm-hmm. So I think I think the fear-mongering side of it, because it's literally, that's never happened before. Like on a scale that big, this was without a doubt. I mean, Ripple paid $200 million to defend themselves in legal fees in that case. Yeah. So, I think from an outside perspective, if somebody didn't know much about crypto, they'd look at the SEC and they'd look at Ripple and they'd go, those guys are criminals. They've done something wrong, because they know who the SEC are. Yes. And, Ripple, XRP, what is that? Like from somebody outside, they might go, what is that? They're in the wrong. So I think it was very easily to kind of put fear in the market, and not even from people outside. I mean, you even just look at crypto exchanges, they were faced with uncertainty, and, even Coinbase and Kraken, they were delisting XRP because they just didn't know what was happening. I mean, this is like the first lawsuit of a caliber this big. And I think for a lot of people, it just caused a lot of fear, uncertainty. And, Garlinghouse, fair dues to him, stuck it out, was commentating on the whole thing, pretty much saying, we are going to win. Like he knew and for the first year or so, there wasn't, I feel like everyone in the crypto industry came together, even though the XRP community was always by themselves for the most part. I mean, if you know crypto Twitter, XRP Army is a thing, and they definitely ruffled feathers with others in the crypto community. But I think people in the crypto community knew that this case was really important for the whole industry. Yep. So everyone came together, everyone backed it. And, even before the result of the Ripple case came out, SEC files a lawsuit against Coinbase and Binance. And, again, there was fear, like nobody knew even what was going on with the Ripple case because that result hadn't come out. And many people say, did they file that before the Ripple case because they had an indication maybe it wasn't going to go exactly their way? I mean, no one knows except the SEC on that one. But literally, I think it's an interesting one because now the result has come out. I feel like it's put everyone at ease. I mean, XRP was listed again on all those exchanges. And I feel like now, I don't know about you, what your thoughts are, given, you're in the industry, kind of you're across all this, but after that result came out, it kind of made that Coinbase and Binance lawsuit a lot less daunting after seeing what actually happened with Ripple. I was like, okay, well, they can kind of take out a lawsuit against anyone. It doesn't necessarily going to mean they're going to win just because they are a major regulator in the United States.
Yeah, and that is so interesting, isn't it? Because the US is very regulation intensive, right? And I think where a judge could have ruled in favor of, a long-standing regulatory body, they chose to look at the facts. And I mean, that's their job, obviously, but they chose to really, look at this really objectively, look at the XRP cryptocurrency, look at the definition of a security and go, where do these, where does the definition of a security match up and where does it not? And there are, there's not a neat, like XRP can't be neatly, or any other cryptocurrencies like it, can't be neatly defined under the definition of a security. But I think it gave the crypto community a lot of hope, and hopefully put some people at ease about, like you said, about those lawsuits that are now against Binance and Coinbase, the two major cryptocurrency exchanges. I think that Coinbase, I look at Coinbase and they're such a, they play by the rules, same as Kraken.
Yeah.
They've always really played by the rules, and they have tried to do, everything by the book and do everything right. Binance, I'm not so sure about. Obviously, they're in a little bit of hot water for, other reasons, and for foul play and, things like commingling customer funds. But for me, that ruling that found that XRP is not a security was really satisfying. And I'm not even invested in XRP personally. I think when all of the legal hullabaloo came out, I was just a wee beginner and decided to steer clear from XRP. But it was great to see. It was great to see that outcome.
Well, I mean, transparently, with XRP, because originally when I first got in 2016, that's when obviously I'd seen XRP and I had bought some.
Yeah.
But then when the lawsuit happened, obviously it got delisted, so I couldn't even do anything with the coin if I tried. So it got delisted for however long it was. So it was just locked up in the exchange. So.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was a positive result, but there still is, whether they do appeal or not, that's a different matter. I mean, there was Darling House came out and said that it could take for ages for them to appeal, but then on the other hand, it could really damage their reputation if they did appeal, and then the judge still rules that no, it isn't a security for retail purposes.
And I've even heard that I can't remember, but a motion has been filed to throw or to fire Gary Gensler from his role as head of the SEC. But that quote you're referring to, I've got it right here actually, so you read my mind. And the Ripple CEO said, as a matter of law, the law of the land right now is that XRP is not a security until there is an opportunity for the SEC to file an appeal, which would take years. Frankly, we are very optimistic. So great news for Ripple. I'll be watching that one really, really closely. I'd love to move on to ask you about crypto adoption, because now that we know you've been in the space since 2016, you've copped the flack from friends who say it's a scam and, what are you doing? And did you ever second guess yourself in that moment in time? And how has your thoughts on cryptocurrency changed since 2016?
Yeah, I think a hell of a lot. I think now a lot of my friends, they are like, I think for Australia, there was some statistic in Australia that had everything's obviously it's based on surveys, but someone came out and said even 70% now of Australians have in some way held or shown an interest in cryptocurrency, which I know back in 2016, I mean, I don't know the stats on it back then, it would not have been anywhere near that. So I think, very differently. A lot more friends now, I mean, even just in closer circles, asking about it, they're kind of getting into it, they understand it, they know the value of it. Whereas back then it was kind of a taboo word. You'd say crypto and people, I mean, it was only 4 or 5 years ago that people were using it to buy illegal stuff on the internet. So I think now, you're seeing the AFL and the NRL and all these sports leagues and in across the world, the crypto.com arena now, which is the LA Lakers, is it's front and center. And I think that gives people a lot of trust in crypto. I mean, just seeing it around, which can go both ways, because obviously FTX was a sponsor for major events across the world as well. So I mean, people should always do their own research again on what exchange and what crypto they want to invest in, just because it is front and center at your favorite
Yeah.
sports event doesn't mean that it's not a scam. But as long as people do their own research, and I think now, especially with all the regulations that are coming into place, and after FTX, that needed to happen. There needed to be one like that, because that has now kind of broken down every single thing that can go wrong with an exchange, and it's almost a use case now for regulators across the world to be able to go, right, well, you need to have your assets, you need to have the reserve, and even just looking at those court filings, I mean, some of them were kind of hilarious when they had the fact that they were using QuickBooks as their accounting software. So I mean,
not great.
That's an accounting software that is for small businesses, freelancers, but not for multi-billion-dollar corporations running globally.
I have one final question for you, and it's about crypto adoption, because it's certainly growing in Australia, but perhaps not as much as other countries where crypto is more needed and valued because of economic and financial uncertainty. But certainly, it's growing. Do you think Australia's crypto adoption is growing fast enough? And if not, what are the risks of not learning about digital assets and educating yourself about the technology? Are we at risk of letting this opportunity run us by while the rest of the world forges ahead?
Yeah, I think there's different aspects to that. I think from an economy point of view, if we don't educate and adopt it as quickly as the rest of the world, then we're going to lose out to all the startups and all the innovation that is going on in the industry. And I think, I think Darlinghouse, again, I feel like I've quoted Darlinghouse about 3-4 times already, but it might have been Darlinghouse, but I'm sure a lot of other people in the space have said it, is that, even with the actions of the SEC in the United States, taking action against all the crypto firms, it is driving innovation away from the United States. And I think, that can be said for the rest of the world, not just with legal action, but just in the sense of, if you're not taking this up quickly enough, if you're not providing enough opportunities, and even if that is just, educating in schools, I think that'd be so important, even just as part of economics in year 11 and year 12, to have an aspect of blockchain and digital finance where people will be interested to, because if these businesses are coming to Australia, there needs to be employees to work at the businesses. They need to have labour here as well. And I know a lot of it is remote, which is great nowadays, but there needs to be that demand there as well. And from an education point of view, I feel it's a tough one, because you have to be interested in it at the start. Like, people that go to university, some people just don't have any interest in finance altogether, and they don't want to study it. So why should we push some new technology in finance onto them when they had no interest in traditional finance, which has been around for all these years? So it's a weird one to say, everyone needs to learn about it, because some people have no interest in finance the same way some people have no interest in philosophy.
And, and it's funny, because and yet people complain that we didn't learn about finance in school, and, we missed out on all this opportunity. And why didn't we learn about how to invest in the stock market? Or why didn't we learn the basics of tax or superannuation, or, all that sort of thing? And I feel that we're good at complaining sometimes and not good at, reaching the solution. And even Guy Dickinson, when I had him on the channel recently, he was saying just how ridiculous it is that Australia gives themselves a big pat on the back for the most minute, achievements, and that, it's just not enough, so it's tough though. I mean, I don't come from a finance background. I had literally zero interest in finance growing up, but I think it's because I wasn't exposed to it, and I think that's the same for a lot of other people. Plus, people have other things to worry about, the cost of living and paying off their mortgage, and, these things all occupy our minds. It's very difficult to make space for yet another thing, especially a thing that is just really overwhelming to learn about. But my hope is that people like you and I just keep talking about it. Maybe people will listen one day, and they'll be encouraged to learn about it.
I absolutely think so. I think it all comes down to people talking about it and normalizing it. And I think the government even now getting on board and saying like even them just showing up at events. I mean,
Yeah.
we've seen government is coming to crypto conventions in Australia and
Yeah.
sponsoring crypto events and blockchain events around the country,
Yeah.
which again just builds trust in the fact that people can look at it and go, well, if the New South Wales government or the federal government is backing this,
Yeah.
then maybe I should look into it, or maybe this is something I should attend and learn about as well. So
Yeah.
I think it all comes down to trust, and I think there's still a bit of a way to go with that side, and it hasn't helped obviously in the last 18 months what we've seen with everything from Luna to FTX to the domino effect of what FTX caused on other crypto firms too. So, but it's all a learning curve, and I think it's part of a new industry as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Kieran, thank you so much for joining us here on Dear Crypto. I just really, it's such a treat to have you in person chatting to you because I've been such a long time reader of your content, especially on Cointelegraph. Where can people find you if they want to reach out or even read your articles online?
Yeah, absolutely. Just Instagram, my name, same with Twitter, and then yeah, if you just type in Google Ciaran
Perfect.
Crypto, you'll find articles on there as well. Thanks so much for having me as well. It's been awesome to kind of dive into this space a lot more.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. And you guys know what's coming. Dear Crypto is our brand. We're all here to understand what really goes on in the crypto space, and you guys are what makes this community the most inclusive place to explore Web3. So please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it, and we will see you very soon. Bye, guys.